Today I sit in a Nevada County, California bee yard, musing on the state of the honeybee in our world today. This bee is an import from Europe, much like me. I'm speaking here of the western honeybees, Apis mellifera. I defer now to a trio of local lasses who are on a bit of a mission, a quest actually. The quest for local honey. Spurred on by the spread of colony collapse disorder, a mysterious ailment that has wiped out colonies of honeybees across the country, the media has been abuzz about the bees ever since.
I'd like to get one of the rooibos teas.
Rooibos? Okay.
Is this honey local?
We try to do everything local.
In the US, nearly 1/3 of the country's crops depend on pollinators such as honeybees. Yet, 1/4 of the country's beekeepers have lost over half their colonies since 2004. And then, of course, there's that honey.
These are screen bottom boards that we made up to make ecological beekeeping easier for the hobbyist beekeeper. We found that instead of using pesticides, you can use powdered sugar, sort of sift it on the bees, and the mites would fall off. So we devised a trap where the sugar and the mites would fall below the screen, get trapped on that board, and then you could pull out the board and dispose of the mites. Years ago, CCD started and there became a lot of people who wanted to become beekeepers. And our screen bottom board became very popular because people who were hobbyists didn't want to use pesticides in their hives. So we started going to conferences, and the next one up is the American Beekeeping Federation Conference in Reno. It's going to be in January. You should go. It's going to be a blast. Reno, I mean, how much fun is that?
What do you do when you want to make a movie about honeybees? You head to Nevada, not Vegas mind you, but Reno, to the site of the 2009 American Beekeeping Federation annual conference.
Liquor store, pawn shop, tobacco, pawn shop. Welcome to Reno, baby.
The quest buzzed in unaware of what they were getting into. Bright lights, big city, and bees?
It is a difficult position because you've always got to be in your queen attire. You can't go out drinking or anything along those lines.
Okay, so you're not even allowed mead? You can't go out drinking mead, even though it's part of
no,
the whole honey-producing bed?
I understand it's really good, too.
That's a bummer.
My favorite job is as a guard bee out at the front of the hive from predators like bears and birds and skunks.
Maybe humans.
Or maybe humans, too, yes.
They're just a fascinating critter. When you think you know something, you find you don't know all that much.
Hi, Janet.
efforts to show how important bees are to agriculture.
This is your Bee Sex Essentials.
This is the Bee Sex Essential.
You wrote
This
the
is
sex book.
this is the best book out there on bee sex.
I think it's very interesting that the drone bee's job is to sit and rest and to be strong, so when the drone goes out on its mating flight, it's able to successfully compete to mate with queens. So the job of the drone bee is to sit around and drink honey.
Do you think that's something we should learn?
I think it's something we better put it in perspective. Consider what happens to the male bee when it mates.
Oh, yeah.
I was 12 years old when I bought my first hives of bees. I rode back from North Carolina in the back of a truck on top of 12 hives of bees to get back to Florida.
We're all dealing with the same thing. I mean, nutrition, disease control,
Chemicals that they pick up in the environment.
Where are you going to put your bees?
It's a 24/, 7-day-a-week job with bees, because when your farmer calls up and says, in pollination, you got to move them, or you get a flash flood, or you get fire going on, you got to move them. You got to be there and ready to go.
They can do all these crazy things. The bees are very adaptive and very accommodating.
You could say back in the old days, before the problem with mites arose, it wasn't a let alone beekeeping. People did really just stick a hive out in their backyard, and they could produce some honey. And then, yes, we got into global problems. But I think we have a good crew of scientists who are doing very good work in helping us combat these in a sensible fashion.
And then they're my little pet peeves, like, well, I got this swarm in my backyard. I've had it for the last 17 years. And I said, well, I think if you've had it in one box for 17 years, it stopped being a swarm 16 years ago. I like it when my friends take a mead brewing class and they make mead from their honey, and then they give me a bottle of their mead. So you got the bottle of honey, you got the bottle of mead, and life is good. And life is good, yeah.
How sweet it is.
Enticed by this golden treat, the Quest hosts their very own honey tasting. They ask tasters to rate each honey by taste and emotional response.
I had an emotional response just to taking it out of the jar. And the emotional response was like, thank you for being thick.
I think that one's very calming to me, the clover.
The Portugal rosemary was bouncy.
Bouncy.
Bouncy. I know I like this one. Let's try to clear that out. There are bees whose job it is to do interpretive dances when they get back to the hive of their experience.
Who wrote Bouncy?
My name is Randy Oliver. I'm a commercial beekeeper, small commercial beekeeper. I run around 500 colonies, and the numbers go up and down during the year. In July, you maybe up to 700 colonies. The last few years, we've had what's called colony collapse disorder. Many colonies suddenly dying. The bees, they say, disappearing. Well, that's normal with sick bees. Sick bees disappear. They fly away. They die away from the colony. The unusual thing is they're doing this with brood nests full of undeveloped bees ready to be developed. That's not something that's normal. It used to be that oceans and mountain ranges stopped the movement of bee diseases. Nowadays, with California almond pollination, half the managed bees in the entire country are moved to the California Central Valley every spring to pollinate the almonds. In the almonds, they transfer diseases. So what used to take hundreds of years to spread a disease now happens in one single year. The price spiked a few years ago, so farmers pulled out cotton and they pulled out peaches and they pulled out wheat and they started planting almond orchards everywhere. They didn't take into account that you can't produce almonds unless you have insect pollinators. And the only insect pollinator that's manageable is honeybees.
Seeking another view on the intertwined relationship between the humans and the honeybees, they find a local pilot friend, grab Janet, and head up into the skies.
So we have this strange system where this huge acreage of a non-native species all comes in bloom at the same time. There are no insect pollinators waiting for the bloom. The rest of the year, those almond orchards are deserts. They're toxic grounds because of the pesticide spraying and the lack of bloom. So you take semi-trucks and you bring in colonies of bees from all over the United States, clear back to Florida and New York, wherever, and move them into the California almond orchards for a month to pollinate the almonds. And then the farmers say, okay, we're done. We've got to start spraying. Get them out of here. I mean, move those bees out of there before they all die from the spraying and they go back throughout the United States. It's a strange system, but it works.
The Quest had found their local expert, conquered their fear of flying, and still they wanted more. They set their sights on their government's highest hive, the White House. What would they need to get there? Money, honey. A fundraiser is in order. An initial email conversation with the White House beekeeper assured them an interview in D.C. After many futile attempts to reconnect with him and unanswered letters to the White House, the quest ended up at the next best place, home of founding father George Washington.
Here for pollination purposes at Mount Vernon, they have orchard over there with apple trees, of course. You know, George Washington is apple tree. Yeah, there's a drone.
The drones are different because they
don't have stingers.
don't have the stingers, okay.
And so you can actually play with them. Actually, I wanted to be the beekeeper at the White House. I was trying to figure out the right context to make, because I wanted to, be the beekeeper to the first president to the current president. Yeah. People are thinking about it a little bit and recognizing it, and I'm not so feared anymore.
If you're really interested, you should come to our club. Dr. Eric Musson is going to be the guest speaker, and he's our California State apiarist.
They were talking about some legislators at the federal level who were looking at the budget, and they said, my God, there's money in there for the beekeepers? Honey money? Get that out of there.
The last 2 years, the classes have been full across the United States. The press from CCD really got the public aware of bees, and I have film crews coming out all the time because of that. It's hard for somebody to become a farmer, okay, if you're living in town, living in the suburbs. But you can certainly become a beekeeper, and then that gets you in touch with the earth.
We're here in my front yard, and behind me is our hives. When I took honey around to all the neighbors, they asked me if I was going to expand my operation next year and be able to kick them down a little more honey. Beekeeping has made me a lot more in tune with nature, because now I look at all the flowers every day. I check to see if the bees are climbing on the flower heads and things.
And by the way, that's really the only thing I really want. I mean, lawns and whatever like that. I just wanted to grow some tomatoes, every old Italian man is supposed to grow his tomatoes.
Well, we're going to meet a lot of my bees in this garden here. And they're not going to be where I want them, right? You know where the bees are going to be? They're going to be in the lettuce. If you've got a source of water, bees are going to try and get to it. And that's the way they like to drink. They drink by sitting on something that's damp. Now, this is a really important step for those of you with long hair. Make sure it's underneath the bee suit. Hair reminds them of animals. Animals remind them of bear. Bear is a threat to the colony. They have the smoke be cool because you don't want to burn the wings off the bees. Okay, that has really made them upset. Now they think there's a threat, and that threat is fire. They'll go through a quart mason jar of sugar syrup in a day.
Pour me a beer with a whiskey chaser, and I'll tell y'all a story about poor Tom Stacer. Poor Tom can't go home.
This is a lot of fun. I like having my bees here. I usually keep anywhere from 2 to 3 colonies here in the backyard. I've been doing this since 1981, when Randy Oliver gave me my first colony. Every year, they'd swarm from one box to the cedar tree. I'd go over, put another box underneath it, shake them into it. As soon as they were settled, I'd give that box away to friends, because Randy never charged me for my first box. I never charged anybody else for a box of bees. You can always tell how guys baby their colonies. They'll come over and pull out the grass in front of it so that they can get in and out easier. If I had my druthers, almost every house would have a colony in the backyard. Number one thing is don't swat at a bee.
Ready?
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
To others, he's a small town legend, a champion of little America. And to others, he's Tom Stacer.
I figure any animal that hums can't be a bad animal.
Where are the bees?
Did you meet Sonny?
This is
Dan's
our kid
granddaughter,
beekeeper.
Sonny. And she's going to be the future of our beekeeping project.
Sometimes like, do I need more? Do I need more smoke?
You got to figure it out as you go along.
So, I'm a work in progress.
And every morning I celebrate the fact that we made this honey and did it with Sonny and Virgil. You know, that first cup of tea every morning, I think about it. And I scoop that honey in, I remember everything we did with that honey. I live it every day.
You want to make that honey when you get home, just put it in a pantyhose. Squeeze it on down.
Oh.
Just leave it drip overnight, and you'll have yourself probably a pint of honey out of that little bit.
This river of honey, it's already out of the honeycomb. I wouldn't wear them after they had honey in them.
When I started not being happy with having to do the centrifugal force kind of extractor, I said, let's do it like we do making our jam. We want to just let the bees build up their own cone like it's their bones.
If any drops on the floor, I'll just lick it up.
I don't have to take that much out. I just want to get it kind of going. Okay, now it should come out. I gotta set that down. Perfect. Good catch.
I can't help but squeal. This is
That's all right.
exciting.
It is exciting.
There's a bee. He was sus to know
what
what's
is
going
we
on.
can take her out of here.
Okay.
I'll just.
Here I go, David.
David, Donna, this bee doesn't have a stinger anymore. So I just took it. So now she's fine. She can hang around here.
Oh, do something else.
Zum, zum, zum. Busy bee a hum. Golden harvest, golden sunshine. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be on the planet these days when it's obvious that the bees need our help. Busy bees a hum.
If you have time, this really wild professor friend of mine up at UC Santa Cruz is having a honey extracting party. Around 4, you should come by. See you then.
Yeah, it's a honey party. It is. Oh, it is.
And you want some plates? No.
You spin slowly first, and then you spin as fast as this mechanism allows you.
Okay. And then you can see it's...
Turn it around, hokey pokey, whatever.
Half empty.
Yes.
You know my name means honeybee.
No. I didn't know that.
It's great. Oh, you're getting a good angle.
For the benefit of our Grass Valley honey enthusiasts. Back in Germany, I would say this is half forest, half wildflower.
Beekeeping is interesting because you don't have to tend bees every day. It's not like a cow or something. People always ask, you make your own honey? I say, I make nothing, I rob. You throw bars across a barrel or any kind of container you have that's reasonably protected. In the spring, 1 or 2 of them will survive. I let them swarm and I generate bees for the neighborhood. Most of beekeeping is to prevent sex because you want honey.
Oh, I see.
So I encourage
So by
sex
doing
because
that,
I
you're
need
gonna
propagation.
lose honey.
Sometimes these ones are called Kenyan topper hives. If you go in there and you go,
like this, they come out and get you. If they don't, to them you stink. No, they're very, very good smell. Like they're supposed to be as good as a dog.
They're still going, even though it's cold.
Yeah, they're desperate. They're very hungry.
Why is that?
Well, I just stole all their honey.
Oh. Haagen-Dazs as a company knew that their ice cream products, number one, the ice cream itself, and number two, the fruits and whatever that were going into them, all require honeybee pollination to somewhere along the line. They decided to, among other things, sponsor a competition to see who could design an educational garden, if you will, about honeybee attractive plants.
Each area of the garden has things that are flowering all year round, and then to try and plant things in patches that are at least 3 foot square, because that provides enough nectar resources for a bee or a group of bees to go flower to flower. So they're not kind of like hopping around trying to find, you know, something in the garden. It's like a big patch presents itself.
This is one garden, and we hope that it will inspire gardens all over. In terms of we're showing people that what they can do with their own backyards, their own space, sort of forgotten spaces that then can be sort of reclaimed. And it's really important to sort of follow the doom and gloom with action.
Hi.
It's amazing. Come on up.
The hardest thing about rooftop beekeeping, at least in my situation, is trying to get all this equipment up and down that ladder. It ends up being a lot of different trips. I probably take about 20 trips putting up, you know, between the pallet and the bottom board, the tops, all the frames and the boxes. You know, it's like a tornado of like all these bees flying around. But a lot of the neighbors don't mind because now all their fruit trees are pollinated and they get a lot more flowers than they did before the bees arrived. So, you know, even your closest neighbors start to realize that there is, you know, really good things, you know, for the bees, not just, you know, little stingy insects that are annoying, which a lot of urban people still think sometimes.
I do a little honey sale in my neighborhood honey sale twice a year. I bring an observation hive of bees inside, and then I put chairs at the end of the walkway. I let people come out here and see the bees that produce the honey that they're buying.
See that holes they can go in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see, and I always get stung in the head.
Here. And
Ooh, hey buddy.
okay, let's put on a little hat. We don't have a river or a stream or a pond, but we do have landscaping and we do have rain gutters. Yeah. Almost all of our swarms swarm right into our neighbor's yard. And they've been very cool about it. So she's taking one of our swarms and she is put it into the nucleus box, which is the wooden box. In the couple of days since we caught that swarm, they've built that whole honeycomb that's sticking up there. So that's the top of the box that was hanging down, and that's the natural way that a honeycomb is shaped. It's in sort of globe. And they built it in the wild. Some honey for you.
Those two are beautiful.
Yeah, they're good. These are unhatched queens. If they're hanging off right off the bottom, then they're considered swarm cells. There's another swarm cell. So you can see this how it hatched out here. It just chews the top off of that and hatches out. And that was a queen cell, so that could have resulted in some swarming.
The queens are hatching before our very eyes.
Unless we want to see a queen battle. They're gonna meet. Oh. Queen bee C-section.
That's a queen.
She's eating. You can see her's gonna have a little of that honey for breakfast or first meal, and then we'll figure out what to do with her later.
So what's inside the cups is Meyer lemon infused honey with nice hot water, so you can stir it, and then once it dissolves, we'll add some cooler water, so it'll cool down, so you can drink it.
Wow, it's lemon.
It's Meyer lemon infused honey.
I have it for tasting tests if you ever have one.
Well, I may have to give you a little jar to take home of it.
We were thinking, well, all these people want local honey. What if there was a store that sold the local honey for their beekeepers? It's good for the ecology of the area. It's good for the bees. It's good for the people. This is that almost buckled her knees. That was so good. Average consumption in the United States of honey, I'm sure you know this. You must know this. 1 pound per person per year in the United States. In white sugar, it's 3.5 pounds a week per person in the United States. And if you're not eating that much sugar, look at the person next to you, because somebody is. No bacteria can reproduce in honey. Of the 24 most common bacterias, including staph and strep, honey outright kills 22 of them. The other 2 are spore-forming bacteria, and they can't reproduce in honey. Urban areas are fabulous for bees, because the bees will fly a couple of miles. So that's a 4-mile diameter circle they can cover, which is about 8,000 acres. And in a city, 8,000 acres, that's thousands and thousands of little gardens the bees can visit. And people are watering. When there's water in the ground, there's nectar in the flowers. On a single trip, a bee will visit 200 to 300 flowers and make 10 trips a day. A big hive of bees is 50,000 pollinators. People think bees, they think stings, they think honey, but pollinators. So we're encouraging the growers to have a succession of bloom and leave a lot of plants blooming, hedgerows and unused areas with bee forage, so that if the bees live there year-round, pollination just happens. I'm sure Kathy can go into more detail about pollination.
So we've been working on a fledgling nonprofit called Partners for Sustainable Pollination. Our focus is increasing safe habitat for honeybees and beekeepers. I know we're all pretty familiar through the media, which has been great, the colony collapse disorder, but honeybees have been having issues for many, many years. More and more science is pointing to the nutritional component in the substandard diet that the bees are subjected to, because our farming model necessitates that they be moved from crop to crop for pollination services. The bees really are able to be healthy because they are what we call generalists, meaning they go from floral source to floral source. The pollen that they get from those different sources are slightly different, and the bees mix them into a matrix that satisfies all their requirements for protein quality, amino acids, steroids, lipids, those sorts of things that they need in order to be having their immune systems up to par to deal with environmental types of stressors, mites or parasites or pathogens, or just living a shorter amount of time that they can't carry the colony through to the next spring. We need to create that conversation. We need to have a way for folks to talk about that issue behind bee decline, the nutritional issue. And so this little logo is our hope for folks to be able to engage in that conversation, because they see that logo and they ask, well, what is that? It means that the grower is putting in a certain percentage of their working lands for forage for bees, 6%. That grower has to be willing to say, yes, I'm going to let a little bit of my land be for the bees, which means that not all of my land was something that I could harvest and sell. It's not an organic certification, but they are being very cautious about when they apply pesticides, the type of pesticides that they use, the timing of those pesticides. It also looks to whether or not there's a source of water that won't run out. And then, most importantly, that there is a diversity of plants blooming seasonally throughout the year. So if we had more forage closer regionally, we could start to talk about whether or not we really have to move the bees long distances. And that's where I know your group, your people are working on that Quest for Honey is another big part of the picture for improving the health of bees, for people to value and appreciate honey so that beekeepers have another way to make a living.
BeKind and PFSP are hosting their 4th annual Honeybee Symposium.
Hi, I'm Misty. And I'm Margie. And we're the honeybees. There's a little hive down by the river that holds something oh so
No, they're not. These actually. Yeah, but you don't want to pet the butt.
Just the top.
You know, right here, the back between the wings. Oh my goodness. Several of us said, let's just have a little group meeting where we can sit down and talk about the magic that happens with bees, because they need food, they need forage, they need nutrition. And so if everybody started planting plants, they would have no problem, I think. You know, that's a big goal, but we're starting in little ways.
I trust the local bees to be well adapted to the local conditions, and so they are doing, they are in their universe, they are doing well. And so that's one thing. I do not treat the bees. And so there is no antibiotic, no chemical compound, no treatment of any sort that goes into my beehive, which means that the bees are handling the problems on their own. I do not interfere with the process of natural selection. If a hive is fading away, failing, I'm not going to neglect it. I'm going to requeen it with some genetic material that is doing it. But otherwise, if I were to treat the hive, I would be artificially sustaining some genetic material that would be failing, and I would be allowing this deficient genetic material to be multiplied, which would be a big mistake, and that would be weakening the local bee genetic pool. You need to keep an eye on it, but that's what I do. It's very simple. So I don't know that I'm doing anything special.
We went to visit this group of women called the Bistritza Grannies. They're now considered a national treasure in Bulgaria, and they're anywhere from 60 to, I don't even know, 90 something years old, and they've been dancing together. Same village, same women, songs, dances, since they were like 3 or 4 years old. They shared some of their rituals with us, and they brought their granddaughters in who performed this particular bee ritual.
And it was like, whoa, we created the hive. And at one point, a spontaneous hum arose from the whole crowd.
The way the bees are organized, the way they live, is centered around service, love, collaboration, and altruism.
And this is what they need. They need to make it in the way they want to make it. Not so that we can take their honey, but so that they can be comfortable.
Anybody who's coming into your hive for some kind of a celebration usually is greeted with bread And the honey figures in all the ancient cultures, and I know in Bulgaria they'll smear the door jambs with honey of a newly married couple to make sure their lives are sweet.
Ancient Greeks very specifically related to the bee as harbingers of prophecy. And the bees are doing that now.
If you would like to, you can come forward and touch them. And say hello with your fingers.
It had never occurred to me to put out my hand and touch them before today. I didn't know that was part of what people do with them, and it was amazing to be so still.
They're conscious of our love. They're conscious if we are using them or if we are tending them.
I will throw them now in the air.
Here we go.
And most of them are drowned, so they may fall on you, but they don't have a stinger. Even the girls won't sting you.
It's my hope that what we did here today can radiate out into larger and larger circles.
So we came here to listen to the bees, and I don't know if they knew that they were going to be listening to us, but they got a couple of little earfuls, I think.
She said, well, what do you really want to do with the bees? And I said, I want to have a bee garden. And Barbara said, let's do it. It's hard on the bees when they're just feeding on nectar and pollen from monocrops. If they can be exposed to a diverse diet, that's something that's very supportive for them. It's a very significant thing to say, well, we're going to make sure that the bees can overwinter on the honey that they've created in their hives, and they have their own food source. We've experimented with hives that are popular throughout the world, and then also some that are newer designs that are especially coming out of Germany in the biodynamic beekeeping movement. And it's not like we can say, oh, we've got all the answers, but what we are learning is to basically just stand back and try and ask the right questions, and to do minimum intervention in beekeeping.
Our second annual Sacramento Area Beekeepers Association annual picnic. This is our second time that we've held it out at the Harry Laidlaw facility out here. Very gracious of Sue Colby and Kim to lend their time to us, as well as their facility as well. And we have a lot of newbies, and so by putting these things together, we're supporting each other, and that's what a colony does.
Trying to get bees that are healthy, productive, resistant to pests and diseases. It's like breeding the super bee, but I'll spend my whole life and never get there type of thing, right? Anyway, that's the effort. All the hives have screen bottoms, so I can look at the mite levels. One of the queens out there that has the highest mite levels seems to be resistant to viruses. So there's all this, balancing act. Should I take you outside?
It's become much tighter, more communication because of all the issues and problems we have. So you're seeing a lot more interface between different groups that have been more separated, especially the research, commercial, hobbyists. There's a lot more interaction between these groups, which is great to see.
You can buy a complete Purina chow for almost any animal. You can get it for emus, you can get it for alligators, you can buy it for chinchillas, you can buy a chow that they will live on. You cannot buy a chow for bees that they can live on completely. They still need to have natural pollen. And since honeybees evolved in Europe, European pollens, are the ones they evolved with. Luckily, most of our commercial crops and our weeds are mostly European. It used to be that when farmers planted corn, they only weeded the corn until it got knee-high. And at that point, they let the corn just grow up and shade out the weeds. Well, there are so many weeds in cornfields, you could move bees to cornfields and make a honey crop off the weeds. Nowadays, with the advent of Roundup-ready corn, farmers do clean farming, and they farm right to the edge of the property line. They don't leave any hedgerows, and all there is just corn and no other plants whatsoever growing. To bees, even though that's pure green as far as you can see, that's a nutritional desert. There is no nutritive value in those fields.
We just started tabling like at our local city Wednesday night market thing, you know, and people really want to know what's going on with the bees. All the researchers talk about how important nutrition is, but there's still that gap of, well, if we want to work on nutrition, we need to work on plantings for the bees. Bee space. Where is the bee space? Where is the place for the bees to be?
So here's the Ceanochus. Right here is one kind. The native bees really like it. Here's a bee. Here's a bee getting water. Here's some thistle that the bees like. What's good too is you can see here that there's no effort to scour the place of all the weeds. You know, a lot of flowering weeds that the bees love.
Phacelia tanacettafolia, the most important flower for bees.
These are Brussels sprouts that have just gone to flower. This is cabbage here. You know, we try to keep something always going, and you can do that with the rosemary. This is a plant that's from Australia. There's a lot of honeybees in here.
Take the feeder off. And there they are, feeding. See there, come up there and just drink. Their favorite flower, actually we can eat. There's a gorge because there's so many flowers. They just come from flower to flower to flower to flower to flower to flower to flower. They can remember 4 flowers where they are in a 2-mile radius and remember still where the hive is. They do these little dances in their hive to tell their friends where the flowers are.
The quest finds their way into honeybee lore expert Tinowin's Garden of Delight. After a cup of tea and honey, they settle in to hear ancient tales and visit modern-day garden forage fit for a bee.
I'm just as impressed by the observations that earlier beekeepers have made just based on their observations and their understanding of how the world is and the forces that shape us and we react to. That there was a tribute paid to Rome in 800s, and it was hundreds of thousands of pounds of wax. Bees were thought to be messengers between man and God, or they were thought to be human souls would enter into the bees when they died and they would fly off. The relative or the heir of the bee master would, after the death of the bee master, would go out to the hives and would say a charm, because it was believed that the bees would follow the master and all die. Bichen, unser Gott, unser Gär ist tot. Verlasst mich nicht in meiner Not. Little bees, our master is dead. Do not leave me in my sorrow. I like to think that survival depends on mutual assistance rather than survival of the fittest.
Melissa meant bee in the ancient world, so this was a title of priestesses. The Melissae were the bees, the bee priestesses. And our name Melissa comes from this. The most famous Melissa of all was the Delphic Melissa, the Delphic bee. It was thought that sometimes they could be born right out of flowers. Virgil said that bees possessed a portion of divine reason. A swarm was said to have landed on Plato's lips when he was an infant. which indicated that he was going to be blessed with sweet speech. And Plato and Pythagoras were said to have regularly imbibed honey. Certain forms of honey itself were hallucinogenic. So this is all circling around the idea that bees were really not what they seem to be entirely. They're much more profound creatures that are associated with, non-ordinary or supernatural knowledge. The Delphic Oracle, the place and the priestess herself, is the woman who becomes the droning bee. She becomes the matriarchal queen who then delivers knowledge that others perhaps don't have as much access to for their well-being.
Crazy. Ready? Yeah.
Alright, keep coming out. Watch out, it's gonna fall. Ooh!
That's important that she makes it into the box, right? Oh yeah. I'm gonna go for it. Wow. Look at, they're going.
Yeah, there they go.
Yeah. It elevated us all to a new level, you know? You actually will have way better success if you can encourage them to stay in the nice little home you made for them and actually get them to walk in and want to be there.
And then the insulation is like recycled bed sheets. And I just kind of like that it looks like a little gnome house.
Oh, that bee mystique. Bees are everywhere, showing up in our lives as a modern-day cultural icon. You don't have to be a beekeeper to honor the bees.
I'd like to introduce you to a man of many hats. He is well beyond such summing up, and yet a very simple chap. They call this cat the Bee Master. He holds a special key to the secrets of an ancient art, the shamanic way of the bee. The Bee Master knows what the buzz is all about. Spreading his pollen all over, trying to get the word out. It ain't so easy, you gotta bury your body in the earth to truly understand just what the bee is worth. I got bees on my mind, I got bees. I got bees on my mind, I got bees. I got bees. I got bees on my mind, I got bees. I got bees on my mind, I got bees. I got bees.
When I taught beginning beekeepers classes 10 years ago, it was pretty discouraging. I'd have to tell them, your bees are probably going to die. Nowadays, people are having great success being hobby or small-scale beekeepers. And check back in 2 weeks from today, and if they got eggs, then you've got a new split. If you need more equipment, you can call me back later on this afternoon. Good luck. Okay, see ya. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, Randy's sort of the hub of a lot of that too. You know, how he's, how enthusiastic he is and how he's gotten kids like Kieran involved and people like me involved.
He was my science teacher, yeah. It's like the best science teacher ever.
He actually had us scoop up some bees with our hands, bare hands, and just hold them and shake them off and let them go, and just getting used to the bees and how to work the hives.
We both work at a summer camp called Camp Augusta, and this is going to be a new activity that we're teaching this year to the campers, so that's how I got involved.
So what'll happen is when you start off, the kids, just like you guys did today, you started off standing way back there, right?
Right.
Everybody stands way back. after a little bit, I got to push the kids back to even pull a frame out because the kids, every kid in the group wants to be right there in the beehive with their face in their hands in the beehive. They can't get close enough because they want to see everything, and it's just amazing watching this the change as they're in there. It's a lot of fun.
It's the family of bees.
They are a family. She's got a longer abdomen, as you can tell, compared to the rest of them. And there's only one queen bee in the entire hive. Bites have been a big problem lately. So it's just kind of a perfect storm where a lot of things kind of hit at once.
Evil space creatures.
Exactly, yeah.
The bee gang problem.
Yeah.
A lot of young bees are dying in drive bee shootings.
How did you guys get it in there?
I just put them in here this morning, actually.
How did you do it? It's right there sitting. Yeah, I see it. I see it. What if the bees got scared, Nora?
Julia and Phyllis, they do a backyard gardening, homesteading hour at KVMR. And we're going to be talking about why it's important to keep bees. It should be fun.
The bee booth at the county fair, it's in August. I highly recommend that. It's always staffed by people from Nevada County Bee Group. And it's a lot of fun because you see a lot of people who know nothing about bees come in and get really excited about different types of honey.
And you also get to taste the honey.
All right, a bunch of different kinds.
Does it taste like pumpkin? And she said, yeah, it does. Well, there's pumpkin in it. I got pumpkins in my yard. I'm not lying. It's not 100% pumpkin. We won the blue ribbon for our light honey, our dark honey, our frame of honey, and our novelty basket this year for the fair. China, along with a lot of their other products, has chemicals and pesticides in their honeys, and they've been trying to bring it in the United States with actually lead-lined drums with honey in it. And so their honey is banned from the United States, and now they're trying to mask it from other countries and bring it in, and they're selling it for 18 cents a pound.
The United States consumes approximately 300 million pounds of honey a year. We only produce about 150 million pounds. So we're an importer of honey.
A large problem for the beekeepers occurred when we opened up our borders to accepting honey as a product into the U.S. A lot of times on the shelves, like you say, the label will say packaged in the U.S., but that does not mean that it was produced by bees or a beekeeper that was in the U.S. So we're trying to change that around, and large food companies have a big role to play in this. If you're General Mills, if you're Kraft, if you're getting your honey from out of the country, you're contributing to the problem of the bees.
The price of honey, wholesale price honey, was so low for many years due to Chinese imports that we just wasn't hardly worthwhile. Extracting the honey wasn't worth the labor you put into it. Lately, local has become a big thing. We may stick closer to home now and produce local honey instead. We'll see how the market works out.
It's local. It's right from the bees that may have foraged on flowers in their own yard. I mean, people really love that whole idea of it, you know. And yeah, there is that whole locavore thing. Eat locally.
You know, the locavore movement is really starting to ramp up around here, getting your vegetables and produce, you know, very close within sometimes a 50-mile radius. And I think honey is part of that movement as well.
I encourage beekeepers and farmers and growers everywhere to start looking at regional agriculture again, getting back so that, you know, we aren't hauling everything thousands of miles.
Our mission is to protect and preserve the local farms, and we want to preserve a local food supply. And we do that primarily through the farm guide, and this is a listing of all the local farms. We're seeing a lot of local food signs. The word local has become kind of diluted and generic, and eventually it'll become like it won't mean anything anymore. The markets define local. Who knows? I mean, is local a 100-mile radius? Does local mean it's from California? Does local mean it's not from Chile? Ask the grocer, where did this come from?
That's one of the missions of Briar Patch, is to support the local economy. Yeah, we sell a lot of honey. In fact, I'm really pleased that while you're here today, we have so much honey because it does tend to sell out really quickly. So we define 20 miles as local, within 20 miles of Briar Patch.
and then regional is 120 miles, which encompasses a portion of Northern California, not even all of Northern California. We've carried local products from our owners, since we started in the 70s. There's a demand for it.
It's something that's real, it's something that's roots, and it's something that anybody can do. We want people to keep looking for the Think Local First logo in store windows, on products. Make it a little habit. Make it a little thing. Before you buy, before you give, before you get a tomato, figure out where it came from. We have a restaurant here, Ike's. He does everything locally.
So it looks like you are carrying local honey.
Yes, of course. You have to support your own community, and it tastes better, and it's a lot fresher, and when you buy from the farmers, they come and eat here.
Think we'll find honey? Maybe. Oh, finally.
Not the first year, I think it was the second year of the market. We've been doing it for about 30 years now. I've been increasing my hives the last several years because I do sell it in the local stores 3/4 of the way through the year. I run out. And of course the beekeeping industry's had a lot of problems in the last 10 years, and there's been a couple of times that you could have bought the whole operation for a nickel. I got so discouraged. For $5 for $1.
I don't have any money, but I have rocks.
Oh, that shell. I'll trade you 2 honey sticks for that shell.
Okay.
Is that a deal? Okay. Wow. They've dug up honey in Egyptian tombs that's over 2,000 years old that's still edible. So I guarantee it for 2,000 years.
People are finding solutions supporting local economies and becoming aware of their role in a greater whole. We are noticing how each cell is interdependent in the hive. There is a sweetness within this hive that surrounds us all.
Oh, good. A trick question.
That's Mother Nature's voice, or the bees.
Stop using pesticides.
To open up. All the individuals work for the survival of the colony.
That's a little bit too spacey for me.
It's the importance of collaboration.
Ask not what the bees can do for you, but what you can do for the bees.
We all have to have each other to survive in this world.
It's just, are you ready to hear the message?
Thanks for listening.
Stop screwing up.
Share the earth with other species.
Don't take all that honey.
I consent to be videotaped by this Smiley crew for the royal sum of a beer at the end of this thing. Sometime this week, anyway.
I think that's fair.
There's a skunk that lives under the porch. You can just barely smell her. She's been coming out today. So if she runs out, you just stamp your feet. Go like that. Go shoo, and she'll run away. Is there a parachute?
No parachute.
What do you mean there's no parachute? What do you mean there's no parachute? What if we have to jump out? Well, I guess it wouldn't really matter, would it? It wouldn't be time. All right, I'm okay.
I got pulled over by a cop one time in Louisiana. And I had a little bag of bee pollen in the car, and the cop goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's bee pollen." He goes, "Okay." He's gonna lie about that, right? It's bee pollen, man.
I'll leave here with an overly inflated self-esteem and think that everyone's going to like primp and
We
pander.
don't have many more. We have like 4 more.
I want a foppish hat.